Hello, everybody. How are you? This is Awaken Your Wealth from Idaho. Woohoo!
And I'm coming from Las Vegas, the usual spot.
So I decided, as opposed to using computer background screens, I'd actually use real life background screens.
Which is so much better.
So this is a beautiful canyon that's here in Idaho that I was going for miles and all I saw was brown, 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 brown. And all of a sudden they're like, well, there's this canyon here. I'm like, what? And then here's the canyon. So
it's beautiful over there. I'm jealous. Yeah.
So, and it kind of goes along with our topic because of the fact that what are we doing? We are all about that we have to create our own personal health. And how do you do that? You do that by being your authentic self and stepping into what you love. And my soul has been calling me to go on this journey. And while my kids were with their 10-day vacation with their dad that he's allotted every summer, that it was time for mama to feed her soul too, so that I could get some more vitamin D out west. And especially today, there were tornadoes that hit Chicagoland, and I was going, well,
I heard that.
I know.
That's great. Is that normal in Chicago?
You know what? I got to tell you, I mean, Illinois has tornadoes all the time, but I will tell you this. There is something energetically that is off the charts intense in Chicago going on, because we had more talk about a lack of health. The stress levels in Chicago are through the roof right now, and they looted Michigan Avenue again, and last night it was like a protest all over again. And there's an unhealthy dynamic going on between the mayor and the police, and and I know a lot of people outside of Chicago have a different viewpoint of what Chicago's like, but it's not like that what you hear, right? But it's never what you hear on TV. And I think that's one of the things that's important for us to talk about from a health perspective is stop plugging into the stuff that really does not serve you. You know?
So true.
Because it really, you have to be here with your heart and your soul. And, we called today stepping into your fire, because what's your fire? It doesn't mean that you're going to get burned, because remember, fire can have two different sides to it, right?
Right.
You can have the fire where you scorch and you burn and you just torture, or you can have the fire where you're this an amazing, luminous, bright light that just impacts lives and you make a difference and a change. And they're both fire. The question is which one are you going to choose?
Yeah, I think the way I see fire, right, is more like almost like a superhero, right? If you have control of the energy of the fire, you're able to direct it, you're able to channel it, right? It's like the rising of the phoenix comes in the form of fire, right?
Yeah, for sure. I know. Oh, and you just see the big swoosh, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Or
rising
passion
out of the fire. Oh, I love that.
Passion is that fire.
Oh,
and it just depends, right? So it just depends on if we have our mind right and we're taking this energy that's hitting us super intense right now, if we're channeling it and working with it in the right way. There's massive amount of creative energy potential right now.
Talk us more about the energy that you're seeing from an astrological chart perspective, because I gotta tell you, there is, since that full moon, and we entered Lionsgate 2 days ago, right? Like that cranking up of the Lionsgate and the full moon. I mean, holy bejesus! Like
holy bejesus is right, Batman. No, the cranking up feeling is actually two things. One, we're coming into what I'm now affectionately calling yod season. So we have yods going on. Yeah.
Are you just trying to act like you're from Boston still?
Hey, forget about it. Get out of the car.
The yacht. What are you talking about, the yacht? Tell me more. Sorry.
So a yod is also known as the finger of God. Okay. And this is a very it's a very destined aspect.
Which finger?
Huh?
Which finger? I'm just kidding.
I guess, yeah, that's a good point. Does God even really have a finger?
I don't know.
Metaphorically
the finger.
It'd be more like you know, he'd be like the space in between there. Bam.
Well, that looks like a vagina upside down.
Okay, good point. I agree. Okay, so, but I don't think they'd want to call it the vagina of God. That'd be
No,
that'd be a
no.
little.
Oh, God forbid there'd be a whole lot of people upset about that because of the whole male female. I'm sorry.
Right.
Go ahead. I digress. This is what happens when you put me out in beautiful nature. Like you've
Oh
got
my
me in
Lord.
raw. And I thought today I'd wear my workout shirt. You're always wearing the workout shirts for our health. Here today, I'm in the workout outfit.
Yeah, nice. I love it. Absolutely.
Okay, so the yod. I'm sorry.
So the yod is a configuration of two quincunxes in a sextile. Now, the quincunx is that feeling that you have inside you that is like you can't quite figure it out. You don't really know what you're feeling. It's right in your peripheral, but it's like you're trying to figure out what you're feeling, but you just can't. But it's driving you towards this certain place, right? And this is the feeling that requires faith because your analytical mind can't wrap your head around it. So there's two of those coming from two different directions. So that feeling is probably what's creating that like mass, like everybody's just like going nuts, not knowing what to do with their energy.
So do you think from a physiological perspective, this energy coming from two different places, is that like a vice on your head?
It can be, yeah. It can be a vice in your head.
I'm a thinker, right? So I'm a thinker, and so everything goes to my head, and I reason it out. And I would bet a lot of women are like that because that's why we all seem like we're cuckoo and crazy in our heads sometimes, you know. But that's the mind is the ego, is the masculine part that is, you know, not leading our lives anymore because our hearts are meant to lead our lives moving forward.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah. So this is where whatever part of our energy, so the learning lesson of this yod for the collective consciousness, right, for everyone, is the sun, which is the core part of all of us. Okay, because this is transiting, all right, it is hitting the collective unconscious. So this is a month where there is going to be another massive wave of a level of awakening. And of course, that's more Dark Night of the Souls. That's more people freaking out. That's more people not knowing how to handle it. But also what's really, really setting the stage for the next few months of this next phase or chapter is the Mars square to Pluto and Mars square Jupiter and Mars square Saturn. Mars already squared Jupiter last week. And now it's coming into exactly squaring Pluto in a couple days. Now, that aspect, Mars square Pluto, is one of the most tense, harshest aspects in astrology.
Why is that? Okay?
Because a square aspect is when two energies are sort of bumping heads, right? And
oh yeah, I
get back in January, we had the conjunction. We had a Pluto-Mars conjunction in Capricorn. Now the conjunction is so my Instagram keeps
conjunction junction. What's your function?
So when two planets are on top of each other, basically the energies merge together. Right? When they're square, they're kind of pissed off at each other. They have different viewpoints, and they want to.
So is it almost like the opposite of like when you take two magnets and they go together? You know, but this they won't fully go together because they're like fighting each other, like two magnets, the wrong sides.
Okay, kind of. That would be more like an opposition. Okay?
Oh, okay.
A square would be more like it would be a little bit off, but it'll stick on another side. Like you try to bring it like this, and it'll go like that, right? So it's not quite opposite, but it's fucking annoying, right? It's just like, will you just see what I'm talking about?
So is this why the energy is going to be tough?
Yes. Yes, because think about it. The energy of Mars, right? Mars is the divine masculine. Mars is the warrior, and Mars is the god of war.
Got it.
And perfect prime example, and you know, literally almost to the day. Look at what happened in Beirut, and all this other stuff. There was 4 other locations I think that also had massive explosions going on around the world. Right? That is Mars square Pluto.
Got it. So let's pull this back into everybody's health, right? So you have this energy. How, from an individual perspective, how do we, because we really can't control anything outside of ourselves, right? So
Right.
all these things are happening, and I always say, do you and the universe takes care of the rest. Do you and the universe takes care of the rest. So
Yes.
how do we help ourselves from a health perspective? Because, you know, I'm watching an awful lot of people these days where the stuff that they have not been dealing with is coming up, and it's, they're now starting to get the warning signs of disease. That's one of the things that I'm noticing. And so with that, you know, how do we
think of when someone has a Kundalini activation of energy, right? Whoop, where'd you go?
Oh, I'm still here. Sorry, I moved my computer. I'm still here.
Ah, there we go. Hi.
Hi. Okay. Sorry, I just moved the cord.
That's okay. So think about like what happens when some people have a Kundalini awakening, right? The energy moves so fast up the spine that it exposes the deep truth. It exposes these aspects that are blocked. And sometimes people stubbornly hold on to these blocks because they don't want to change, especially if people have very fixed energy in their chart, or if they're just, you know, in life, clearly very stubborn and they just refuse to change.
Well, and I will say that I've met a lot of people who don't even know that they're consciously blocking it. You know, there are a lot of people who have
very unconscious energy.
Yeah, and I know so many people out there that they want to shift, they want to change, but they're so just stuck in the dailiness of life.
Right.
And then you get the results from a physician of, hey, we got some warning signs and now we want to stick you on this medication because your whatever is a little too high in elevation or whatever, you know?
Right. And that's the dangers of this process. This energy is pushing us to through a threshold. Pluto brings up the darkness within us that we don't want to face, we don't want to feel, or we don't even know about. It's like, you don't know what you don't know. Soon you're going to know what you don't know. Okay. And this, and this process is going to be,
right.
And this process is going to be a 3-phase process to the end of the year. Okay, so
wow.
That's
going to be pretty intense for a lot of people, I think.
Very, very intense. And this is where we're going to start to see again, and the media is not going to cover all this stuff the same as they did last time, because now the South Node is not in Capricorn where it was before when they were televising all these riots and stuff, right? So we're going to start to see people just like out of nowhere, like freaking out. We're going to start to hear stories from people sort of almost like underground, not on the mainstream, of like chaos erupting all over the place. It's going to start to happen.
Well, and I think one of the things that we also, and some of us can see this, you know, like I've noticed this myself with people that I didn't see during the shelter at home stuff. And then I saw them, that some people look amazingly youthful after all of it. And some people look amazingly aged by 10 or 15 years from it. And it is like this night and day. Like you didn't really stay in the middle. You went one way or the other.
There is no more middle. The middle doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Either you're on this side or that side. And this next few months is going to really highlight that.
Right. And so, so with all of this, so that we're all gonna start to see these things on a micro level and not necessarily on a mass media scale. I think what's really, really important for everyone to understand is that we really do need to go inside and stop making the excuses for not putting into your body what you already know your body wants. So like for me, for an example, I've known for years my body works better with vegetables, like just vegetables. And I love vegetables. I eat a ton of them, but I really need to just like cut the meat out on a big level. And because my body, you know, it stops up, it doesn't run, and it doesn't, you know, and I need the energy to move, not get stuck. And food is energy. And you know, if you're someone who's gained weight through all this stress and stuff like that, we have to realize that that is unused energy.
Absolutely.
Right?
And this is exposing those things that we resort to when we're in that fight or flight mode of change, because the change is happening so fast. It's almost like we look around like, how the hell, how did I get here? Where did this happen?
Right.
And it's going to force us to take a really deep look and see, like, you know, okay, where are we at? And do we want to be here? Yes or no? If no, then what do we have to do? It's going to make it so uncomfortable that we have to make some kind of movement somewhere else. And so this next like 3-4 months is going to be like an entire life review, especially with the way the world's changing into next year, about, okay, what are we going to do, or how do we want to really be living? What space within ourselves? What do we want our house, family life? What do we want our community to look like? What do we want our life to look like, our reality to look like? And how are we going to take responsibility and step into that right now?
Well, and I would like to urge people of, you know, I always say, for you to create your life the way you want it to be in the next season, and that could be the next 5 years, 10 years, whatever that is, regardless of what's happening out here in the mass scale, you know, have you insulated yourself on a personal level, you know, so that you have the space to do that? So for an example, we went through a time period where it's shelter at home. We don't know if this pandemic is going to have another wave or not. Statistically likely, right? As we're seeing hospitalization rates come down, but yet you have more younger people getting it. But in the same token, so I think it's super important that, you know, are you prepared? A lot of people weren't prepared last time. Like, if we are going to have to stay at home more, like, are you prepared to stay home again for another 3 months for things to pass? And I'm not saying don't go to fear, everybody. I'm just saying that, were there things in the last round of shelter at home that, if we wind up with a shelter at home again, do you have your home in the arrangement you want? Like, so for an example, for me, I tried to buy a treadmill and I tried to buy an elliptical machine. And by the time I went to go buy them, they were gone. And I am now at this place where it's like, okay, I am going to make sure that I have those machines in my home, because I miss that component. You know, I was literally walking around my kitchen, dining room, and family room to get my 10,000 steps. And I was like, that's like, with 4 kids, that's like insane, you know, and that gets old really, really fast. Right. But even from a, you know, whether it's your home life or your personal life, your financial life, whatever, you know, have you created space to allow yourself to move through that, anything that happens on this macro level? And because if all your own personal stuff is going to come up, like you're talking about energetically, like, it's going to be like a zit that pops, you know?
It's so funny you say that, because I was talking to some friends yesterday, and that's exactly the analogy we used. The white head is full. It is ready to release. And there is like eruptions going on.
I literally was yesterday in Yellowstone Park at Old Faithful, and I'm watching all these geysers just go.
Wow.
And there was one time I found very interesting. One of the geysers in Yellowstone Park was called the economic geyser. I thought that was pretty funny. Wow, you know, being in finance and all, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think we need to just realize that as this unfolds and as it unpacks, that how do you do this in the healthiest way possible? But you don't do it when you're up against everything, because you didn't create enough space for yourself in your life.
Well, and that's where we're kind of in a space where we're being pinned up against the wall, like energetically speaking, and
not
like,
for good reasons.
What's that?
And not for good reasons.
No, this is like whatever we've been avoiding in our life. It's saying, hey, you need to deal with this shit. You need to face it. Or you might just feel that crazy calling to go out in nature, right? Or you know, like you if you are trying to push for something that just does not seem to be working right now, don't keep pushing. Take a step back and look at why it's not working, and then, you know, reassess what the approach you're taking. Because right now, if it's not working, there is a very good reason for it.
Well,
there is something that you have to look at.
I've been saying that for a while, that if and I don't want to mitigate anything that has happened since the beginning of this year, but what I do want to shine light on for people is the fact that if something falls away from you, whether it's a job or a relationship or whatever it is that fell away. You know, a lot of people were arguing about small businesses and like a lot of them closing. And I'm a small business, so I totally get this on so many levels. But if you were on the edge of your business closing, regardless of a pandemic, maybe it's supposed to close. Maybe things are supposed to shift in your life. Why are we afraid of that? And why are we choosing to like try to pull up our crumbs and pull up our scraps? And I'm like going, you know, I was walking in Yellowstone yesterday and I was thinking, you know, I was trying to balance. I could tell that my anxieties were up and I was trying to balance it all out. And from a health perspective, high anxieties, long run, don't do anyone any good. And I know after my divorce process, I had almost like a PTSD kick in from the whole thing. And I just know that when I connected out in nature, I was like going, you know, we make all these arguments of save this, save that, do this. And I was communicating to the person traveling with me that, wow, maybe we're not supposed to save these things. Maybe we're just supposed to allow them to fall away. And it's only our guilt that we haven't done something in a certain way, shape, or form that makes us want to grab it and pull it back. And we don't have to, because all that does, that guilt, those emotions, guilt, shame, blame, judgment, all of that stuff really needs to go away, because it's affecting so many people's lives. People are popping anti-anxiety and depression drugs like they're candy. And I'm not saying it's not a time or a place for them, but I'm saying it's a little out of whack that so many people are on those things because we're not coping with the reality or accepting the reality of what's going on in our world.
You are not kidding. And it also has to do with safety too. People feel so unsafe that they're running to try to find anything that they can feel safe with outside of themselves, which is again a control dynamic.
Yeah.
Right. So there's this whole root chakra reset in the entire world right now, and it's being attacked. Quite possibly, yeah, absolutely.
So what do you suggest for people that this is going on, like this whole root chakra release?
Oh man, I mean, yoga is of course probably one of the best things that you can do, but you know, stretching, just moving your body, getting out there and experiencing movement. If you have serious issues, okay, like specific stretches can help with, you know, particular aspects, but really the bottom line, movement is life. And right now with all the distancing and all the restrictions, you know, that are going on everywhere, people are just getting like, yeah, well, you know, I can't go to my place that I like to do it, and you know, so I'm just not going to do it, right? So we need to be able to activate the movement, to keep the blood flowing, to keep the circulation going, and that's just not like literally, that's also metaphorically, because the energy can become very stagnant.
So one of the things that's super clear to me is that many of us, so we have states of depression when we're focusing way too much on the past. We wind up, if we're focusing too much on the future, we have anxiety. And really the balance here is in the present moment, like the here and now. Like me sitting here in front of this beautiful canyon in the present moment, doing a Facebook Live, you know, sitting on nature, that in a place that I found, right? So
love it.
But what I'm understanding this to be is that so many of us are not coming from this place of the present moment, and remember that is where disease develops. You know, because you're at dis-ease, you know, and even when we think about like our workouts, think about people who are they're runners and they run and or anybody that does anything, you know, my grandfather played football from Notre Dame. I have two cousins that played minor league baseball. Like my family's full of a bunch of athletes, right? And so we know how to push and get to that nth degree. The challenge is so often then that's when injuries occur, because you're push for that optimal, but then you go out of whack in the present moment. And it's such a metaphor for life.
Yeah, that is so accurate.
And we have to realize how this is affecting our health.
Right. So when we feel like right now, a lot of people are feeling this really intense push of energy, and you can't just say, well, just meditate through it and just, be with it. That's not how this energy works. This energy is like lighting up your ass. Let's make some change. Let's fucking go. And so we need to embrace that feeling of like, like physical exercise or just taking action on something, as opposed to distraction and just sitting down and just letting it take over. Because we let this energy take over and beat us down, man, it's just, that's where the imbalance is just gonna get stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. This is meant to toughen us up.
Well, and in this energetic process in the bodies, is that going to lighten up our density? Because
it is right. So and now this goes into the whole 𝐿𝑰𝐺𝐴 portal, right?
Okay,
𝐿𝑰𝐺𝐴 portal is significant because the Orion belt lines up exactly with the pyramids in Egypt, right? That's what those
they're
exactly
portals, correct?
They're portals, exactly. And also that's where the sun and the fixed star Sirius and Earth align perfectly. Okay, so this portal is activating a lot of star seed type energy. So that is increasing it's thinning the veil, and it's increasing our vibration. And while it's increasing our vibration, of course, all that dense vibration has to get purged out. So that's where the Pluto is excavating the densities. It's bringing the unconscious to the conscious. It's becoming aware. And we also have a sextile between Jupiter and Neptune that's going to be going on for the next few months, which is hyper activating our psychic gifts and making us much more sensitive to energy. So if we work with this energy, we're able to really attune to a deeper level of our gifts and really step into this DNA activation that is going to be happening really for the next few years.
So so when I'm sitting here going, we might be talking a foreign language to some people who are watching this, right?
Yeah.
You and I could talk about this all day long because we've done our work over the last decade in terms of becoming more conscious and aware. So the question is that, so as our DNA is being more activated and we're moving from third dimension to fourth, fifth, right? Which just means moving out of the state of the ego and into the heart, and have your heart lead your life, because that is the new energy. So to keep it really, what's that? Hakuna Matata.
Hakuna Matata.
What a wonderful phrase. Hakuna Matata.
For the rest of your days.
Means no worries for the rest of your days.
Right? That's like, that's the clarity.
Yeah, you know what? There's a lot of truth to that. Disney is brilliant on so many fronts that they have all this subliminal messaging going on that we don't even realize. Well, there's subliminal messaging everywhere, but in particular, there's places with Disney, and even if you think of Star Wars back in the day, right? Like that was way before its time, and and in music and things of that nature.
Absolutely.
So I sit here and I go, okay, so if we're lighting up our density, and I don't want to be like it's the same song and dance of, eat a balanced diet and go exercise and, what I have to tell you, health is where my stuff acts out, right? And that's always been like Achilles heel. Yeah, so that's been my Achilles heel. And so I think one of the things that's important for people to hear out here is that this is not about a diet. This is not about hammering yourself. This is about, today, the most I can show up is I'm going to walk my 10,000 steps. Okay, so what? You moved the energy. And maybe that day you didn't need to move it any more than that. If you're following that internal guidance system, and I'm not saying, I want people to be careful of your internal guidance system versus the stories that you've created for your life.
Right. Intuition versus fear, right?
Yeah. And I don't necessarily think that all stories are fear-based, but many stories are our limiting beliefs that have held us back. And we need to realize that it's like, if you're that person that your story is, oh, I can't do this because of my hips. Well, do you understand? Because those words of the vibration that are coming out of your mouth talk about the problems of your hips. Well, then you're exasperating that you're going to continue to have hip problems.
Exactly.
Like, people don't
Right.
realize, again,
You're
our
giving
thoughts,
yourself
our
a
words,
plan.
our feelings, they're all vibration.
Right. We program ourselves and we don't even realize it.
I know. And
Yeah.
it, one of the things I've learned on this spiritual journey, which is why I've done this awakening series, is the fact that spiritual solutions aren't hard.
No.
Honestly, so many of them are very, very simple. It's our mind and our ego that make them hard.
They overcomplicate everything.
Right. Our ego mind
Ridiculous.
does exactly that.
Mm-hmm.
Because we go, oh, but what about this? Oh, what about that? What about this? What about this? What about that?
What if, blah, 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 and then you get lost in it.
It's this whole monkey mind that we've got going on.
Right.
And so I think what's important is that, you know, we realize that we either work things out or we act it out. We do it through our health, through our money, or through our relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happens. Right. And so how do we health-wise, you're the health guy, not me, right?
Well, right now, I mean, in a general sense, of course, you want to listen to your body, but I know for me, like, intermittent fasting is working really well for me right now. I haven't been very that hungry. And I'm actually, it seems that the more emotions that I need to process, the less food I can process. Right. So this is all,
the more emotions I have to process, the more food that goes in my mouth.
Right. So everybody has their own way that this energy interacts, and you have to become aware of how that energy is interacting. That's the most important part. But when you catch yourself or you find yourself doing something that makes you feel bad, do the opposite.
Right.
Okay. So if you're laying down, feeling sorry for yourself, even if you're exhausted, you're feeling like, or if you're tired, but if you're saying in your head, I'm exhausted, I'm tired, I feel like shit, blah, blah, then get up and just do something. Yeah. I don't care what it is. Just do something. Put on an ebook or
interrupt the cycle.
Right. Change your state. That's what Tony Robbins says. Change your state. When you change your state, you'll be surprised how well it works. When you just have to take that step. And then once you discipline yourself, take that one step, you have to structure like certain things to get out of that funk, because this energy, it's so intense. It can bring you into a funk, but it's testing you to see, okay, you are stronger than this funk. So when you step through that, then you find how much discipline and actual willpower and inspiration you really have. But you have to have a why to do it.
Right. That's so true. Yeah. And we just have to, it goes back to self-love and self-care.
100%.
And, even being a mom, so many moms out there, like, put everybody and anyone before themselves, Yeah. And actually, I should say, like, any parent does that, really. And any giver, so it's just watching, that you're not letting this get the best of you. Right. And know that it's important for it to just choose you, because that is so important. When we don't choose ourselves, whether it's from your job or your health or your money, like, when did it become okay to take care of everybody and anyone else before yourself?
Right.
I'm really confused about that. Like, where in the hell in history did that get so hammered into everybody that I know in society?
So and you can bring permission to believe.
Yeah.
That's the collective victim.
Right. Which is what's shifting. I always talk about the fact that there's the victim, which is the scarcity. And then there's the abundant, where you're coming from a place of empowerment. And then there's this hybrid in between. I think there's a ton of people in the hybrid where they're vacillating between being a victim and empowered, victim and empowered, victim and empowered. And it's like, we have to really just keep, like you said, interrupt the process so that we can get to this place of really, truly being abundant and coming from a place of empowerment. And You know, because that's what we always want. You know, we always want that the next generation actually experiences that, but it's really hard to teach that when you're not doing it yourself.
You got that right.
You know,
Amen. And that's why we like the theme of the rest of this year is leadership of ourselves, leadership of our lives.
well, there certainly is a lack of leadership these days, isn't there?
Yeah, 100%.
You know, I just sit there and I go, you know what, I do not want to get into a political conversation whatsoever, but
No.
I think there's such a lack of leadership all over the place that,
oh, it's terrible.
You know, I just keep thinking that, well, one, it kind of feels good that there's not a whole lot of presidential election news on the TV these days because it's so dominated by economic turmoil and
right.
health issues. But in the same token, again, all of that noise and all of that information is outside of ourselves. And,
exactly.
and we've got to really, I think it's going to get super crazy out here until you are forced to go in here.
Amen. I agree.
And we really need to find out what that means for us. And I know when I first started that journey, like I didn't even know what my heart really wanted because I had ignored my heart for so long.
Right? A lot of people don't even know what their heart's trying to tell them.
Like we think that we think we have, but there's so many of us that sit out here and go, oh, but it's like the Keep Up with the Joneses. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's like, let's just stop the Keep Up with the Joneses because that's outside of yourself. You know, it doesn't matter what other people think or speak of, or, you know, like,
and I think
have so many people now that the market went down and then the market went back up. They're like, well, what should I be doing? And what is prudent? Define prudent.
Right.
How about what does your heart want? And I can tell you, so many people are sitting here and they will avoid the question and they'll go, well, if there was an analyst on the phone or if there was this going to happen and this is going to happen, and
right,
what would their answer be? Going,
what if?
Yeah, and to me, it's like, why are we ignoring our hearts so much? Because we're so afraid to make a mistake based on our own heart's desire.
You're not kidding. And the heart is not logical, but it always leads us in the right direction. But people get attached or addicted to the lifestyle they're in, the things they have, the way of living, the control, the power, the dynamics, and all those things that are not in alignment right now. Pluto is a planet of power struggles, right?
So true. Yep.
So that shit's getting all undone. So I think that right now there's a massive shift in power in this entire world, and it's turning into the favor of the heart, and it's calling out the people that run with greed and, you know, narcissism and manipulation, and all these really dark manipulative kind of energies. That shit's going down.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that's really important for us to pay attention to is the fact that it's really okay that if your heart takes you in a direction that you never knew before. You know, like I've had people call me up and be like, Julie, I can't stay in Chicago anymore. I gotta go. And I'm like, well, you weren't gonna do that for the next 10 years. Yeah, well, you know what? I feel like I'm gonna die if I stay here. You know, and then I have other people who are going, Jewel, I gotta move back to Chicago because of family. And I've been gone long enough. And now I need to engage. And
interesting.
You know, I'm really going to challenge people out there that if your intuition is telling you these like massive moves in your life or these massive things, I want you to trust it because it's okay to jump off the ledge. Because here's what I've known. After years of coaching people, whether it was personally or in business, it doesn't really matter. But every time someone jumps off the ledge and goes after what their heart's desires are, every single thing shows up. And then you avert disease developing in your body.
Absolutely.
But when you don't follow your heart's desire, disease goes rampant in your body.
Exactly. Yeah, that's no good.
And I just think it's important to pay attention to, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. It's very important. But look, right now, you're not going to be able to not pay attention to it. It's going to be screaming at you no matter what you do.
Because we're stepping into your fire.
Like, hey, dude, do not pass go. You have to, like, this is like, you cannot pass this level with all this shit. You have to let it go. You have to transmute it. You have to transform. And
but people don't actually know how to do that, Nam. People don't actually know how to do that.
Right, but this energy, it's unconscious. It's not about knowing how to do it. This is going to pull us through whether we like it or not. That's why we may see a lot of people perish. We may see a lot of souls choose to leave this earth, because it's going to happen whether we like it or not. It's pulling us through. Like Scorpion from Mortal Kombat, get over here. It's pulling us through.
So in essence, whatever it is that you have not been healing or showing up for yourself in your own life or procrastinating on, that's what you're going to be pulled through.
Yes.
That's what it feels like to me as well. Yep.
And
I'm watching it happen to people. You know, I can't tell you how often I'll tell the story about that. When I wrote my first book, The Emotion Behind Money, 50% of my male clients between 55 and 65 developed cancer right around their hip area. And it was prostate cancer, colon cancer. And then I was sitting inside a seminar with Deepak Chopra, and he's up there, you know, he's an MD, but also believes in the Eastern philosophy. He says, you know what? A cancer cell develops because that cell has lost its sense of purpose.
Right.
And then I started thinking, going, how did all these guys in my client base develop cancer and lose their sense of purpose? So how is that possible, and how did that happen? And so then what happened is every single one of those guys were let go of their jobs, not by their choice. And I will tell you, over the last 12 years since that book came out, I have had people, men, who just look at me and blank stare, and they can name 2 or 3 guys that, and they may have been one of them, that exact scenario happened to them. Wow. And so I think it's important. And for women, it shows up as breast cancer because they nurture everybody else besides themselves.
You see, you know what's really interesting? The astrological equivalent to that that age frame is the Chiron return.
Explain
the Chiron return. The Chiron return is like it's the wounded part of you, right? So when that comes around, you're taking a look at basically like your entire emotional state and what you have faced, what you have accepted, what you have not accepted, and everything in between. And wherever you're at, that's why normally after that, people either just turn into old grumpy people or they turn into little kids and all are happy.
Oh, that's so true. And that certainly happened. I even think about that for my divorce. Like I turned into like kid in a candy store. I feel like I got this new lease on life. And right? I had people tell me going, oh my God, Jewel, you look 10 years younger. And I'm like, well, thanks. You know,
well, what do you know? All you had to do is get rid of some toxic energy. Hell yeah.
Well, and love so it. To me, it's about the fact that really work on, because we've all got our stuff, right? And the question is what's yours? And what do you want to do about it? And you know what? The only way to the other side of these emotions and stuff that we have harboring in the inside is to feel your feelings. It's the only way to get to the other side. You know, like we were talking about earlier about your good news this weekend, and you're working through some emotions and coming up with your daughter and all this stuff. And it's like, just feel them, baby, right? No different than, you know, for me, like I don't have my kids for 10 days. And it's like, one of the most awful things as a mom is, or a parent, you don't have to be a mom, but worst part about divorce is the fact that you don't see your kids 50% of their childhood. Right. It sucks. It absolutely sucks. But I also know on a soul level, we signed up for this.
Right. Exactly.
my kids did, I did, for whatever lessons that we're all supposed to learn and whatever work we're all supposed to do. This is where it all comes into play.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
And it's super interesting. So, you know, Cheryl says, what about those that never rest? I always feel like I have to keep doing stuff. My anxiety has been at an all-time high, so I stay busy. How can I shift? Cheryl, sweetheart. First of all, I love you dearly, and you know that. And you just have to choose to start being, because there's something inside yourself that you're afraid of looking at, and it's usually in your subconscious mind, and it's from your childhood. Because remember, our subconscious minds are fully developed by the time we're 7 years old. Mm-hmm. And it's really, really important that, you know, you don't even know what it is. And I will tell this story over and over again, that, you know, after my marriage was over, I was like, okay, there was something going on to where I couldn't figure out what was blocking me. But I was still being triggered by my ex-husband, and it was all over. Like, everything was said and done, and things were separated out. And then I was doing some work that, and Cheryl, certainly, or anybody who's listening, that this may or may not be for you, but I couldn't figure out why I was having all this anxiety, and like PTSD was coming out through the roof, and I was so outside of my skin, and I couldn't figure it out, because anyone who looks at me from the outside, it's like, oh, she's got her shit together, blah, blah, blah. Right. And then I turned around, and what was happening is, I did this like hypnotherapy session, because I was trying to figure out what was stuck in my subconscious mind. And then I watched like a video that I was sexually molested by a Catholic priest when I was like 4 or 5 years old. And it was amazing to me that once I uncovered that, it was, all of a sudden, all the triggers went away. All I had to do was shine the light on it. That is what it is. And in this hypnotherapy session, I was shaking like a leaf. I was sweating, and I was like, I'm not doing anything, except they had me looking into a pool of water, visualizing a pool of water, and I saw this really dark corner over here. And then as they were telling me to just throw some balls of golden light into that dark corner, and it unfolded like a movie. And then I felt all those feelings that were stuck in what was stuck in my brain at that time. And then it unpacked. And it was amazing at how it was affecting so many other things in my life. And I had no idea. Wow.
That's beautiful.
And we all have stuff stuck in our subconscious mind. And I share that story not to get oh, that's terrible. Like, no, I get it. I had that experience in life because the second chakra is all about sex and money. And, you know, so I had a sex problem that launched me into stuff that I do for a living right now. And it was the experience that my soul on some level called in. I'll never know why, because that's pretty raw. But I'm on the other side of it. I'm on the other side of it.
Right. And if you look at the world today, that situation or problem is way more prevalent than any of us would ever have thought that it could be. It's fucking disturbing.
And I've learned, it was really interesting. The more I started talking about it over the last couple of years, the more people have come out to me and said, how did you get past that? How do you get to, because whether it was, you know, something when you were a child or even when you were older, if you had some experience like that, that wasn't of your choice, you know, fully. Mm-hmm. And, you know, so to Cheryl and to everybody else out there, from a health perspective, you have to choose to stop doing. You have to don't be afraid anymore to have what I started to call on my own calendar unstructured time. Yeah. And, you know, where I don't have myself booked any longer from sun up to sundown. And I just keep it, I still block it out to kid myself, you know, going, well, it's still scheduled, but it's actually scheduled for nothing. So that whatever comes up in life. And I have days during the week where I have hours at a time that there's nothing structured, but it's carved out for whatever life brings my way. And that's how you start to get in the flow of life. And that's how you start to like follow your heart and follow your mind and follow all that stuff. And you just have to love yourself enough to do it, because otherwise it will develop into some disease. You'll wind up with autoimmune diseases, or you'll wind up with, you know, a heart attack or whatever. And pick it, because on some level we often call in a crisis and we don't have to.
Yeah, power moments all over the place. Hopefully, you know, for you guys listening to this, you know, you're doing the work and you're keeping up on the energy, and you know, these are good reminders, or like check-in points. You know, like once a week we meet up and we talk about the energy, so that you guys can remember, okay, I've been starting to feel like this. I got to put myself in check and bring it back into alignment, right? And you know, you just stay plugged in, you stay tuned in, because you want to keep yourself associated with the higher vibration and the awareness and the knowledge of what's going on, so that you can understand your own process more efficiently.
Well, and it is about, you know, Nam, you and I have always thought of ourselves as like almost like the interpreters, right? We're on this spiritual quest, and I get that not everybody's gonna be on the quest or understand what we're doing, and may think we're a little kooky for doing it, and whatever. It's okay, because I feel that the two of us are almost the go-between between, you know, the energetic outer expansion and the reality of the 3D world, and we're helping 100%. People transition through that. And so just know that all of you out there, you don't necessarily need to fully understand all this stuff. You just have to trust that you're drawn to watch this, or you're drawn to come see us every week, and something will eventually pop. Something will eventually make sense to you, to where it'll open up a gateway in your life, and you're gonna be like, I can't believe it was that easy. You know?
That's right.
That happens to everybody, but just go to what you're drawn to that feeds your heart and soul. Because, you know, like me doing this in this canyon, you know, I drove from Yellowstone this morning and I'm here in Idaho in front of this beautiful canyon that I had no idea existed this morning.
Ah, that's so beautiful. I love it.
You know? So Nam, if anyone needs some individual health coaching and things of that nature, or some readings from you to kind of see what's in their chart, how do they get a hold of you?
You can go to my website, spiritualbodybuilder.com, or you can find me on IG at spiritual_bodybuilder, and click the link in the bio. It's all the same, and I got you. I'll help you out. What about you, Julie?
Yeah, so you come to juliemurphy.com. I'm super excited. I'm got this Awakening series going on with Nam. I have Awaken Your Health on Monday nights at 8 p.m. Tomorrow morning, join us at 8 a.m. Central Time. I'm doing Awakening Your Spirit. So if you want to come do some energy work and you've never been exposed to it, it's like meditation on steroids. You don't have to do anything, just show up and be present. So come join us there with my buddy David Ghlardi from Sedona. And then on Thursday mornings at 9 a.m. Central, we have Awaken Your Relationships with Rita Hickman. And I'm super excited. I will be giving my book away for free in the next couple weeks. I am doing this whole, I just feel like our world needs it. And I'm working on that launch here in the next couple weeks. So look out for it, because you can get my book Awaken Your Wealth at no cost. You just have to pay for your own shipping, and it's yours, because I know my life's purpose is to really help heal this country and our world, and I'm busy continuing to keep doing it. So join me on juliemurphy.com, and we're here to support you. Love you all very, very much, and peace.
Thank you guys for tuning in.